Hi, as the title of the video says, this video is about being transgender and gender theory and what the fuck is actually going on under the hood there. You may be a person who is questioning if they're trans, or a parent whose child just said that they're trans, or you're just somebody who's curious. A thing that a lot of people misunderstand about being transgender is that there are more factors at play here than just your sex. Now, what do I mean with sex? Sex is basically just what you were born with, so the genitalia. So most people think in the binary categories of male or female. Now, this already isn't quite accurate because there are also intersex people where the sex isn't binary. They might have for example, titties and a penis, or the chromosomes might be a bit funky. Sex itself is not as binary as most people think, but there's also more factors at play than just sex. The second factor is gender identity. Now, sex is what you were born with. So, for example, my brother, his sex is AMAB. He's physically male. He has a dick. My cousin is AFAB, assigned female at birth. She has titties. This is a thing that is the obvious thing, right? That most people think of immediately when they hear gender. Now, the second thing is gender identity. And gender identity can be male or female if your gender identity lines up with your sex. So, for example, in my brother's case, my brother is AMAB, assigned male at birth, and identifies as a man. He is cisgender because his gender identity lines up with his sex. If his gender identity didn't or were to not align up with his sex, then he would become transgender. Now, there are different ways of being trans. There's not a single way to be trans. The only qualification is that your gender identity doesn't line up with your sex. Now, for example, it can do this. There are binary trans people, which is the thing that most people think about when they hear trans people. So, for example, if my brother were to, wake up one day and be aware that he's female, that's not how that happens, but just hypothetically, then he would be binary trans. He would be M to F, male to female. The other way around would be F to M, female to male. My brother would be binary trans. Now, I am non-binary trans, and non-binary is an umbrella term. It refers to any gender identity outside of male or female. The male and female is the gender binary, and non-binary people are outside of this. Now, non-binary is a very, very wide range of gender identities, but it can be stuff like a gender fluid person whose gender identity changes from day to day or hour to hour, a person who has some male gender aspects and some female gender aspects, or for example, in my case, I'm agender. I'm neither. I'm not male or female. Nothing. I'm outside of the binary. That's my gender identity. Then the third thing to consider are your pronouns, which is a very bad word if you're conservative. Your pronouns are how you want to be addressed. Now, for example, my cis brother's pronouns are he, him. That are the pronouns that are traditionally given to male people. That are the pronouns that are associated with male people. My female cousin's pronouns are she, her. In this case, their pronouns align up with their sex and their gender identity. Now, in my case, my pronouns are he, him because I'm too lazy. Right? Now, I am agender. I'm not male. The most accurate pronouns for me would be they, them. However, since I am AMAB, I have been addressed with he, him my entire life. I'm used to people referring to me as male. Now, I'm not male, but I'm also just too lazy to change it. So, and this is a good example of how pronouns don't always have to line up with your gender identity, right? Or your sex. Your gender identity is separated from your sex, and your pronouns can be separated from your gender identity. Now, for most people, You know, people who are male use male pronouns. People who are female most often use female pronouns. But especially once you get into the non-binary area, it starts to get a bit fucky-wucky because there are other factors, right? For example, I use he, him simply because it's what I'm used to and it doesn't bother me. I could also, back when I was still in the closet, it was uncomfortable in there, I used he, him because I didn't want to come out, right? That's a factor. If you're talking with a non-binary person and they say, yo, please use she, her, or he, him, or whatever the fuck, because I cannot afford to be public with this and come out of the closet, then that's fair. That person is still non-binary because your pronouns are separated from your gender identity. And then there's the fourth thing, gender presentation. And your gender presentation is once again separate from your sex, your gender identity, and your pronouns. A good example of this are drag queens or drag kings. A drag queen most of the time is not a woman. That's very often just a dude dressing up as a woman. And that's what drag is. Drag is the celebration, just display, like, presentation of gender. It's like cosplaying as a woman, but just to the most extreme extent, right? A drag queen is still a person. My brother, my cis brother, if you were to put him in a dress and give him nail paint, he would still be a male, a guy, but his gender presentation would be different, right? It would be female. Some people choose to present more masculine, some people choose to present more feminine, and some people present androgynously. Androgynously means it's neither definitively feminine nor masculine. And that's basic gender theory. Now, all of these things can interact in different way, and you can basically just run through this on yourself. What's your sex at birth? What's your gender identity? Does it line up with your sex? If no, you might be trans. Your pronouns, what pronouns do you use? What pronouns do you feel comfortable with? Because they do not have to align with your gender identity, right? There are also cis people who use non-standard, in quote, pronouns, right? You could be a woman, you could be assigned female at birth, you could identify as a woman, and you could use he, him pronouns and just dress in the most masculine way possible. You'd still be a woman. You go, girl. I hope this video made sense. I hope it helped you. Feel free to comment in the video if you have any further comments or requests for elaboration, or if you're trans yourself and want to expand upon something that I forgot. If the comment, I will delete disrespectful comments. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a nice day.